What do you think of that? Right, this incidentally is my own handiwork. I don't have anyone else in the studio helping me to get creative with my illustrations. You might be impressed to hear that I actually do all of this stuff myself, because I fundamentally appreciate that I have all of the resources that I need. And bear in mind, whether you like my illustrations or whether you don't, we're all doing the very best we can with what we have. Isn't that right? So in this video, what I would like to do is just remind you of the absolute core NLP basics. What I want to do in this demonstration stroke video is illustrate to you the ABCs of NLP, and this is hopefully going to help you to better appreciate or just remember how it is that we internalize our every single experience in life. Because as I mentioned in that last video, how it is that we assign meaning onto things in life is going to determine how it is that we feel on a day-to-day basis. And I guess the one commonality that we all share is something that I've already mentioned. We're all assigning meanings onto things all of the time. If you think about it, we have our inner worlds in life, don't we? Where our thoughts, our feelings, our perceptions, our worldviews live. And then we have the real world, where actual stuff happens. So you've got the truth of reality, and actuality happening outside there, and then we have all sorts of opinions and worldviews going on inside of our minds. And believe it or not, it is inside of here that we all stand to sometimes get things very, very wrong. So it's important that if we want to gain a much deeper appreciation for the fundamentals of change, then it's going to be important that we understand whereabouts it is that we need to start making these modifications and shifts in life. You know, sometimes the biggest breakthrough that we all need is just a breakthrough in our thinking, a breakthrough in the way in which we see and perceive things. So this diagram is hopefully going to help you to better appreciate exactly what I'm talking about here. You see, out there in the big bad world, there's stuff going on all of the time, isn't there? And all of this stuff they're all things that we have no control over whatsoever. I mean, I know right here in the UK at this present moment in time, upon filming this video, we're going through this process of Brexit. Now, Brexit is where Great Britain, as a nation, we have voted to leave Europe. Now, I personally didn't vote for that, by the way. Why? Because I'm a man who's pro-unity. I genuinely do believe that we are better together. The more people working together in unity, the better. But yet there are some people who buy into the notion of individualism and every man for himself. And I'm guessing that whether we believe we're better in isolation or whether we believe we're better together is all a perception thing. It's all going to be based upon our past experiences in life. Now here's the thing. Our experiences come from absolutely anything and from everywhere. Our experiences in life, 9 times out of 10, stem from the interactions that we have with other people. Why? Because we're all wanting to understand where we stand with people, whether they like us, whether they don't, whether they're buying into us, whether they're not, whether they fundamentally trust us, whether they respect us, whether they admire us or otherwise, and how it is that we perceive our relating to other people is going to determine how it is that we act when we are in their company. So you see, we've all got beliefs about our experiences in life, our experiences that can encompass the interactions that we've had historically with other people, our past history, some of the things that have already happened to us, some of the things that we wanted to happen to us but didn't happen to us. We then have conclusions and theories about all that kind of stuff as well. We have our perceived perceptions about what's going to happen for us in the future, based upon the beliefs that we have about what we're capable of and who we are, and so on and so forth. You know, the world does a great job sometimes of assigning labels onto us as well. Do you know what I mean by that? You know, I can remember going back a couple of years ago. I was working with a lady who was going through this transition in life. All right, she was in this season of uncertainty. She was in her I think it was our mid to late 40s, and she'd had a couple of children at quite a young age, and now these children had grown up, they'd left the nest, they'd left home, and she was kind of stuck. She didn't know what to do with the rest of her life. She said, "But you know, since the age of 16, I've been a mother. All I know how to be is a mother. I know how to be a really good mum, and I love my kids, but now I don't know who to be or what to do. And I know where I've come from, but now I don't really know where I'm going, now that the kids have left home." And as things transpired, what we established was that she had, over the years, drawn her very identity, her core identity beliefs, from the role that she fulfilled as being a mother for her children. Now I'm not saying there's anything right or wrong about this. I'm going to allow you to decide later on in the course. But there's a process that we can take people through as NLP master practitioners called a core identity coaching process. Now, in case you've never been exposed to this, this is possibly one of the most transformational processes that we can take people through as master coaches. This allows people to become absolutely grounded in the facts of who they are, regardless of how they feel about themselves, regardless of what they believe about themselves, regardless of what they think about themselves or the opinions that they have of themselves. When a person takes full ownership of the truth, the facts of who they are, they become absolutely grounded in truth. And I'm guessing that this is something that we really want to help people to establish when we're working with them as clients. So, what I'm saying here is that social labels sometimes have a bit of a habit of really jumping up and biting us on the arse. Now, for example, just to give you another example here, I mentioned in the last video, and I think a few videos earlier, that I spent quite a lot of time in the military. Now, when I left the army at the age of, I think I was 24 years old, something like that, because I'd spent nine or 10 years as a soldier, I'd come to define myself as being a soldier. So in terms of my own identity, for many years, if someone asked me to literally disclose of myself, perhaps in a meeting or a networking group or something like that, someone would say to me, "So Kane, who are you? Tell me about yourself." And I would then respond by saying, "Well, you know, my name's Kane. I'm a soldier." Now you've got to appreciate that back then, I would feel extremely confident about telling people that I was a soldier, and the reason for this, as I mentioned in an earlier video, was that back then when I joined, I saw and perceived being a soldier as being a very significant thing for one to do with one's life. So because I believed being a soldier was significant, I felt significant and therefore strong and therefore confident. Now the problems arose for me. And I'm going to really unpack this in a lot more detail in the next section of the course, by the way. The problems entered my life the day that I left the army, because I'd previously had this social label. I'd absorbed this social label as my own very core identity. When I had to give this label back, i.e., when I was no longer a soldier anymore, I'd actually handed back my own identity, which meant that I no longer knew who I was, which meant that my confidence, my own self-worth as a man, any degree of significance that I felt, literally just jumped out of the window without a parachute, and I hit the floor very, very hard, hit rock bottom as hard as one could hit rock bottom. And this was, I guess, because of the beliefs that I had about myself. You see, based on our past history, how it is that other people interact, respond, react to us, determines the thoughts we have, the meanings that we assign onto these events, the beliefs that we then consequentially go on to develop about ourselves. Because for us, perception is everything, isn't it? Now, yes, we've already looked at the idea, and I'm hoping that you are at least buying into this presupposition that people respond more to their perception of reality than what they do towards reality itself. So if we were just to relate this back to myself for a moment, and I'm doing my best not just to make this course all about me here, but just be as disclosing as physically possible to help you understand. My perception was that I was a soldier, and here's the thing: I placed more value on being a soldier than what I did on myself. So once I was no longer a soldier, guess what happened to my perceived self-value, to my self-worth? That's right, it disappeared, and this caused me no end of problems. And this is what you're going to find at some point in the future, if you haven't already discovered, is a very common problem. When people assign their self-worth or their perceived intrinsic value onto labels that have either been assigned onto them by other people, or otherwise social labels that they have chosen to assign onto themselves, i.e., mother, father, husband, wife, whatever. It's entirely up to the individual how they define themselves. But unless we define ourselves by the truth of who we are, then, my friend, we are living our lives on some very shaky grounds. And when we are uncertain of who we are and what we are capable of as human beings, we're going to experience an emotionally inconsistent life that kind of goes up and down like a bit of a yo-yo. So what I'm saying here, right? If we were just to strip this down for a second, I did mention that this is the ABCs of NLP. So what the A stands for is everything that happens outside of us. We're going to refer to them as activating events. Activating events that fundamentally give us our memories, our past history, things that we remember about other people, our hurts, our highs, our lows. I mean, if I was to ask you right now to remember an event in your past, and give you no more details than that, there's a pretty good chance that right now you are thinking about an event in your past. Now, this event might be positive or it might be negative, but either way, if you were to simply just have a look right now, you'll most likely be able to notice that there's a very strong emotional attachment onto that event. So something would have happened that day that was either extremely good or extremely bad for you. Hence the reason you remember. And this is pretty much how our memories are formed. They're just a series or a string of emotionally charged events, either empowering ones or disempowering ones, positive ones or negative ones. So A stands for activating events. Now, nothing stands alone or happens in isolation. You may have heard me say at some point in the past, if you haven't watched any of my other courses. What the B stands for in the ABCs of NLP is the development of beliefs, or belief development, because beliefs don't come from nowhere. All right. If you ask someone, a random person, a stranger on the street, what they believe, in fact, next time you're walking through your city close to where you live, go and speak to a Jehovah's Witness, or go and speak to a Mormon, or a high street preacher, or something like that. Ask them what they believe, and what you will most likely find out very, very quickly is just how fast they want to convert you to buying into what they believe. All right, doesn't matter whether what they believe is right or whether what they believe is wrong. The fascinating thing about human beliefs, all right, is that everyone believes that what they believe is true. Why? Because our beliefs, as I've already mentioned, offer and provide us with this invisible foundation on which we build and base our lives. So here's the thing: if, as NLP master coaches or practitioners, we start bringing people's beliefs under attack, then what we're doing is we're fundamentally attacking the person, and this is no way of winning a person's trust. So people assign meanings onto things. Say, for example, a person has had a past history of rejections or failures. Because nothing in our perception stands alone in isolation. Say, for example, we have in the past been rejected or cheated on 10 different times by 10 different people. There's a pretty good chance that the meaning that we're assigning onto members of the opposite sex is that they cannot be trusted. All right. I mean, think about it. Have you ever known a person, either male or female, who's ever made a massive generalization by saying something along the lines of, "All men are bad, all men are from the devil," or you've perhaps known a guy who said, "All women are whores, all women are bad, all women can't be trusted." And it's not that all women all around the world are bad. It's just perhaps that some of the ones that he's chosen to interact with at some point in the past were perhaps slightly less than integral. But if you do understand your basics of NLP, you understand how it is that our mind filters information and generally, often generalizes the information, or it conveniently deletes some, or it distorts it in a whole variety of weird and wonderful ways, of which in the next section I'm going to unpack and explain to you. So yeah, to help you really understand.